Well, I mean, you need to know a guy who sells guns illegally. They necessarily have to be more expensive, I would think, because they're selling an illicit goods, and it would be harder to obtain.
They've been stolen, which takes the, break into a house, steal their weapons.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Go ahead.
Okay, do you have a YouTube channel? Like,
yes.
Why are you? Okay, can I have it? I just want to check it out. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Trash Can Man, all one word, 76, and it's the numbers, not the letters.
Oh, okay.
Hey, what are you gonna do with this footage?
It'll be uploaded.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
so what?
Like edited or raw?
My channel.
YouTube. What's your channel?
Can I ask
Like-
one more question? Like, what's your position on gun reform and
Like, is there any
gun
acceptable
control in
amount for
general?
you?
Like, just no, it's just like in general. Like, I just want to hear your side. Like, I like hearing other people's side.
The point of the Second Amendment enables people like you, everybody, to be able to defend themselves.
Yeah.
Any restriction on that, making it harder, background checks are attacks, which makes it harder for low-income people to obtain them. They aren't even enforcing the laws on hand. 2/3 of felons that are caught with firearms right now aren't even prosecuted for that. That charge gets dropped in court. You're asking for more laws that won't prevent it. It'll only add more penalties. So the school shooter, right now it's illegal to take the gun on school grounds unless you're authorized by the state. Depending on the state of Wisconsin, only cops can carry on school grounds. And allowed people from contract for gun training, etc., etc. Those laws prevent people from being able to defend themselves. If your parent were to drop you off at school, let's say you're younger and you need your parents, if they have their concealed carry license and they're carrying, before they go on school grounds, they have to take it out of the holster, remove the ammunition, remove the magazine, put it in a box, lock the box, and then drive on the school grounds. Most negligent discharges charges happen when someone removes it from the holster. The best place for that gun is to stay in the holster.
Okay.
So if they don't do that, they become a felon, and they didn't hurt anybody. They simply drove on. Same thing with the pot laws. Who's being hurt by you smoking a joint?
I just asked your position.
Right. My point is, as long as you're not violating someone else's rights, you should be able to do it.
Well,
okay, but you do understand why that law was created, whatever. So since then, you can agree that guns have evolved from a musket and
They had repeating firearms back then, actually.
But they didn't have machine guns.
Yeah,
guns that can shoot.
Like your common person couldn't.
The purpose of the Second Amendment was for us, the people, to be able to stand up against an oppressive government.
Yeah, I know there's Trump, but
so
I'm pretty
how
sure,
do you expect to stand up?
That's not what we're using the guns for. We're not using the guns to stand up to the government. We're using the guns to walk around with them, and what you're saying, protect ourselves from other people with guns. So it's not us standing up against the government, it's us standing against the people.
There have been several stands against the government. Athens, Tennessee.
Okay, but when?
They actually, this was shortly after World War II.
On what?
Shortly after World War II.
Okay.
The police department was removed by force because they were corrupt.
In World War II?
Right after World War II.
Okay, yeah.
So 46, 47?
Did you hear about the Bundy Ranch?
Tell me about it.
That was about 5 years ago.
Alright.
The federal government changed laws saying that, you can't allow your cattle to graze on this land anymore.
Okay.
Effectively making it impossible for these ranchers to sustain their herd.
Okay.
The Bundys allowed their cattle to continue grazing where the federal government said they couldn't. The Bureau of Land Management showed up with armed men, and people that opposed them showed up, and there was a standoff. Because they had so many people, regular old civilians, wanting to stand up with firearms against the federal government backed off.
I have a question about that. But no,
that was for somebody's livelihood.
I understand that was their livelihood, but you know why that they probably stopped them from grazing on that land? It's environmental protection. That's pretty much a necessity, because as our population grows and there's so many people farming on land, we can't use that much land to farm. Otherwise, we run out of land.
Yeah,
That's why there's
like the
restriction
land.
on.
Do you know what the Constitution says the federal government has permission to possess as far as land is?
It wasn't their land, and they said they could.
Like you're going to tell us.
Yeah.
The federal government, according to the United States Constitution, I'll ask you right after this. Forts, ports, and 10 square miles, which is Washington, D.C. The federal government doesn't have the right to set up national parks. They don't have rights to protect land. The state does, but not the federal government. The federal government is
I have no idea.
illegally taking all of this land from states, so the state's not being able to profit off
Government's
of it.
allowed to seize land if they provide compensation.
Not the federal government, except for forts, ports, and Washington, D.C. Now the state is a different matter. The federal government is taking all of this land. Now you had a question?
Yeah, I have so I've been writing a research paper on like gun control and such in the U.S. And I've been doing research on other countries and like if they've had similar issues and like if they've resolved or done different, taken different courses of action. And from my research, so I'm just going to read you this little excerpt, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
In the year 1996, Australia found itself at an urgent crossroads after 35 individuals were killed in a mass shooting in Tasmania. The perpetrator, Martin Bryant, a 28-year-old man from Hobart, Australia. The gun used in the massacre was a semi-automatic assault rifle. Though Australia had experienced mass shootings before, the Port Arthur massacre was the turning point for both the people and the lawmakers. After much hard work, a mandatory buyback for all pump-action shotguns and rifles, semi-automatic assault rifles, and automatic assault rifles was issued. As an estimate, around 650,000 guns were bought back and later disposed of. In addition, a 28-day waiting period, as well as justifiable reason to want to obtain a firearm, were required when purchasing a weapon. Were required when purchasing said weapon. The aftermath: a drop in suicide rates, homicide rates, and lastly, no mass shootings since that law was put into place.
They actually have had mass shootings since then.
Of how many victims?
Don't know the numbers right away, but I believe there were up to 6. But comparably, the United States saw the same suicide rate drops in that time frame. They saw the same decrease in rapes in that time. The trend had already been going down before they passed that law. There was no significant change in that trend after they passed that law.
Okay. So you said it was happening in the U.S. as well, or just in Australia?
Yes, our crime rates have actually gone down. The murder rates in the United States have gone down.
Yes.
Gun ownership has actually gone up. Simply seeing a firearm is also a deterrent. If you walked into a gas station intent on robbing it, and you saw me standing there with a gun on my hip, what are you going to do?
I'm going to rethink what I'm doing. Yeah.
The simple presence of a firearm is a deterrent to crime.
Did you hear about the school shooting?
That just happened as of like right now.